There's an old saying that money can't buy happiness. It's the kind of thing poor people say to feel better and rich people say to avoid being taxed. But in the case of Barbara Hutton, money didn't just fail to buy happiness. It seemed to actively lobby against it. In 1933, at the height of the Great Depression, while most of the world was queuing for bread, 21-year-old Barbara walked into a bank and was handed $42 million. In today's money, that is a cool $1 billion. Fast forward 40 years. Barbara is being carried through a hotel lobby by a paid bodyguard because she's too frail to walk. Her bank balance? $3,500. She hadn't just lost the money. She had conducted a masterclass in how to set a fortune on fire while standing in the middle of it. Today, we're looking at the original historical hot mess, the poor little rich girl. To understand the mess, we have to understand the money. Barbara was the granddaughter of Frank Winfield Woolworth, the man who invented the five and dime. He built an empire on nickels and dimes, proving that if you sell enough cheap things to enough people, you can eventually build a skyscraper in New York and call it home. Frank was a genius. His granddaughter? Well, she was more of a distributor. Barbara's life started with a trauma that even $1 billion couldn't fix. At age 4, she discovered her mother's body after a suicide. Her father, a man who treated emotions like bad investments, basically handed her a checkbook and told her to go away. By the time she had her debutante ball, a party that cost $60,000 during a year when people were starving in the streets, the public didn't see a grieving girl. They saw a target. Most people collect stamps or vintage wine. Barbara Hutton collected broke European aristocrats. She had 7 husbands. 7. And if you're looking for a pattern, it's quite simple. They all had titles, and they were all spectacularly short on cash. First, there was Prince Alexis Mandavani. He was part of the marrying Mandavanis, a group of siblings who treated marriage like a corporate merger. Barbara gave him a dowry of $1 million and a polo pony stable. He gave her a divorce 2 years later and kept the change. Then came Count Reventlow. He was essentially a human migraine. He was verbally abusive, physically aggressive, and convinced Barbara to give up her American citizenship. He also helped her spend a few more millions on a palace in London that she barely lived in. You'd think after 2 counts and a prince, you'd try a plumber or maybe a nice librarian. But Barbara was committed to the bit. Then came husband number 3, and for a moment, it looked like the hot mess era was over, because husband number 3 was Cary Grant. Cary Grant was the only man who actually liked Barbara and, crucially, the only one who didn't need her bank account to function. The press called them Cash and Cary. But even this was a mess. Barbara was so paranoid that men only wanted her money that she couldn't handle a man who didn't want it. She was addicted to the transactional nature of her life. She divorced the biggest movie star in the world because she was bored. After Cary, the quality control really dropped off. We're talking about a Russian prince, a German tennis player, another baron, and eventually a French chemist. By this point, Barbara wasn't even pretending. She was essentially paying for companionship, one title at a time. But husbands weren't her only expense. Barbara was a philanthropist of chaos. She would meet a stranger in a hotel bar like their story and hand them a $10,000 diamond ring. Just because. I mean, we've all been there. You have a drink, you feel generous, You accidentally hand over a historic Marie Antoinette necklace to a waiter? It's a relatable struggle. She bought jewelry she never wore, homes she never visited, and friends who disappeared the second the champagne ran out. She was living in a permanent state of the check is in the mail, except she was the one sending it to everyone but herself. By the 1970s, the 5 and dime fortune was a 0 and 0 reality. Barbara was living in a suite at the Beverly Wilshire. She was drinking a case of Coca-Cola a day, taking vitamin shots that were mostly amphetamines, and selling off her last remaining jewels just to pay the hotel bill. When she died in 1979, the girl who inherited $1 billion had just $3,500 left. Barbara Hutton's life is often told as a tragedy, but it's also a biting satire on the American dream. She proved that if you have enough money, you can buy anything: a prince, a palace, a legacy. But as Barbara found out, when you buy a seat at the table, you're usually just paying for the privilege of sitting alone. She was the ultimate historical hot mess. But hey, at least the jewelry was nice.